So with this clarity, I felt like, I've accomplished the goal of starting this podcast. But then the next question became, how? How do I embody my purpose in a way that aligns with my abilities, my values, and what truly lights me up? Welcome to A Work in Purpose. We often see other people living and thriving in their purpose and think, how did they get there? Or worse, we tell ourselves, that could never be me. Well, this podcast is here to demystify that journey by sharing real, inspiring stories and actionable insights from those who have walked this path. We'll uncover how they discover their purpose, navigated the ups and downs, and faced the pivotal moments that shaped their journey, so you too can discover and step into your purpose. Hey, it's Wing, and I'm back. It's been a hot minute, but I'm absolutely thrilled to be back with all of you to announce the return of A Work in Purpose after a year-long hiatus. And with my first ever solo episode since I've launched this podcast 4 years ago. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast, you will know that normally I'll be the one interviewing other people who have found their purpose and share their stories about their purpose-finding journey. But this time, I'm going to be sharing mine for the very first time on this podcast. And as the host and creator of this podcast, I think it's about time that I do that, right? So in this episode, I'll be sharing what led me to start this podcast, why after 3 years, I took a year-long hiatus, and what A Work in Purpose 2.0 is going to be beyond just a podcast. So let's get started. So for those of you who are new here, I'm Wing, a chicken wing, and let's go back to the time of the pandemic, yeah? So reaching up to that point in my life, I thought I had done everything right. So I worked hard to get great grades, get into a great college, and then happened to graduate during the Great Recession. So I had to spend a long time trying to get my career in marketing on track. But eventually I did it. I made it through into the tech startup space and became a VP at one point. I also had a fun life. I went out most weekends, traveled quite a bit, and even got married. I felt like I checked off mostly all my life goals. Yet I found myself asking, is this it? Something felt unfulfilling, like something was missing. And during the pandemic, when we really couldn't go out to do anything, I remember hearing Marianne Williams say, who I was really into at the time, that we should use this great pause as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do some inner work. And so I listened and I did. I cultivated some new habits, took long walks around the lake, learned to connect with nature, meditated daily, discovered breath work, and I explored spirituality on a much more deeper level, which I pretty much shunned for most of my adult life. I was reading books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which led me down all these different rabbit holes and really opened up my senses, my spirituality during this period. And before I did all of this, I used to wake up feeling a deep sense of anxiety. I would wake up in the morning feeling like a brick had fell on my chest. And doing all of these things really helped me to cultivate a sense of inner peace. And for the most part, my anxiety went away. But then a question kept coming up for me, and that is, what is my purpose? And I figured that many others might be wrestling with that same question. And then I realized that we often don't hear about how those people living out their purpose got to where they are. Like, how did they discover it? And when? How did they overcome self-doubt and step into it? So at the time, I was doing this writing exercise where I would write down what I'm good at, what I enjoy doing, and what would help others. And I landed on several things, and one of them included launching this podcast, A Work in Purpose. So this idea had been percolating in my head where I would be interviewing people who have navigated this purpose-finding journey and share their insights and stories of how they did it. I had this consistent nudge to launch it for a long time, but for 6 months, I kept on trying to talk myself in and out of it. Who am I to start this podcast and about purpose? And then there was one quote, again by Marianne Williamson, that really impacted me to this day. And the quote goes, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? And actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And so I finally decided, who am I not to? And I launched this podcast about 4 years ago. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. I connected with so many amazing people over the years, people I would normally have never connected with otherwise. And these people went through all their journeys of ups and downs to discover and step into their purpose and living their ideal life today. I was so inspired by their stories and the wisdom that they share. Their journeys made me realize that, wow, for once in my life, I finally felt like I'm flowing along the river of life. I was no longer feeling stuck on the bank. New pathways were opening for me that I didn't know existed before. It felt truly liberating. I no longer felt like, is this it? Instead, I feel like, oh, I'm on the right path now. This is it. And through working on this podcast, I learned 3 main lessons. One is to listen to that inner voice. So we all have a higher self that knows when something feels off. So it's important to explore that feeling. It's there for a reason. And it's important to cultivate a practice that helps you connect with your intuition and spirit. Through that, you'll gain self-awareness that gives you awareness to things like your limiting beliefs. And through that leads to my second lesson that I've learned, which is to learn and take action. It's important to focus on your progress over perfection. As you go on this journey, you'll discover that the journey itself is what gives you a sense of purpose. So don't wait for everything to be perfect. Take steps in directions that feels right and learn as you go. Be aware of your limiting beliefs and make progress to shift them over time. It might not happen overnight, but progress is more important than perfection. And lastly, the third lesson is to recognize that your purpose can shift. So you have to be adaptable. And the whole concept that you have one purpose in life is actually a myth. In fact, your first purpose might lead you to a bigger one. So it's normal for your purpose to evolve. And so yeah, you don't have to feel paralyzed thinking that you need to have one purpose for your entire life. So those are the 3 things that I've learned. But then, over a year ago, I stopped this podcast completely. Well, yeah, what happened? Well, if you're listening to this podcast, you'll probably picked up that it is during pivotal moments when my guests have gained clarity on their purpose and then finally took steps to embody them. Well, since launching this podcast, there were 3 pivotal moments that led up to today. So right now, I am 39 years old. And for most of my adult life, I had a dark cloud hanging over me that my life would be over by the time I turned 50. And that's because my dad's family had a fatal hereditary disease called amyloidosis that pretty much wiped out half of my dad's family. And my mom also passed away from breast cancer in her late 30s when I was just 6 years old, shortly after we immigrated from Hong Kong to New York. So I was very intimate with the concept of death at a very young age. And because my dad had the disease and died, it also meant that I too had a 50-50 chance of having it. So knowing that, I resisted getting the DNA test for years because, I was certain that I had it and I really didn't want to face that reality. But if you've heard my episode with the genetic counselor who gave me the news, you will know that I finally did get tested and that I learned that I didn't have it. And in that instant, I realized my lifespan had just doubled. It felt like a true gift and I couldn't be more grateful for that one moment. So that was, major pivotal moment. So then as I continue on my purpose finding journey, my big P purpose became more and more clear to me. And that is ultimately to ignite the light and love within us so that we can reach our full potential and live more joyful and fulfilling lives. So with this clarity, I felt like, I've accomplished the goal of starting this podcast. But then the next question became, how? How do I embody my purpose in a way that aligns with my abilities, my values, and what truly lights me up? So over time, I started to feel that unease again. The podcast began to feel misaligned. My episodes became more sporadic, from once a week to once a month to once a quarter, and then to no new episodes. Self-doubt crept in again. Like, who am I to keep this podcast going if I myself wasn't stepping into my own purpose? And it became more and more clear that doing the podcast alone just wasn't going to cut it. Then 2 years ago, I faced my second pivotal moment, and that was that I was laid off during the mass tech layoff of 2023. And this transitional period was very rough. I applied to hundreds of jobs and went through countless interviews with constant rejections after rejections. It took me about 9 months to land a job at an early stage startup. I'll get to that later. But it was during this time when I interviewed several of my last few guests on my podcast, and they were career and life coaches, and they really opened my eyes. They really inspired me to view my job search period as an opportunity to experiment with new ideas and explore what truly lights me up. And also before the podcast, I've never interacted with life coaches before, so I used to be skeptical. But yet after each interview, I would feel so inspired and transformed from just that 1 hour of talking to them. And so slowly but surely, I realized that these guests, these life coaches, have planted a seed within me, which I'll share more about later. And so, me being laid off, that was my second pivotal moment over the last 2 years. And the third pivotal moment. So the day when I got that job offer at that early stage startup was also the day I got tickets to go to my first ever Burning Man. And as cliche as it might sound, going there for the first time completely transformed me in my life. And I won't go into the details of Burning Man, but I do have to share that one major thing that it did was that it really challenged me to question my limiting beliefs. And there were 3 specific moments. So I've always grown up in cities. I've always been a city person. So the idea of camping somewhere for more than one night is already like too much for me. But let alone staying for 7 nights in a harsh desert environment was like, oh, wow, that's a lot. And if you remember what happened at Burning Man in 2023, that was the year of the epic mud and rain where 70,000 people, we were all stranded and in the middle of the desert. And what was very interesting was that not only did I survive that, I actually thrive in that harsh environment. And I can't wait to go back to Burning Man year after year. So that was one limiting belief. And the second one was that leading up to it, for my whole life, besides as a kid, I never thought that I could ride a bike. The few times I did, I would crash the bike. But at Burning Man, you just have to ride a bike to get anywhere. So I had to learn after 2 days. And I did. I ultimately learned how to ride a bike, and I loved it. It felt so liberating and freeing. Wow, this feeling I've never knew existed was possible. So I came back from Burning Man, riding my bike everywhere in the Bay Area and exploring. So that was another limiting belief. So coming back from that made me question, where else have I been holding these limiting beliefs? So all of these 3 pivotal moments, me getting tested for that hereditary disease, me being laid off, and me going to Burning Man and coming back with my realization, helped me to identify 3 very specific ways in which I can finally embody my big repeat purpose. So the 3 pillars is as follow. 1 is to inspire others to live fully by aligning my love for traveling and to create through the launching of my own YouTube channel, Go Wandering. So because I've been laid off, I couldn't travel internationally and create a travel channel of me traveling abroad. But now that I've learned how to ride a bike and I live in the Bay Area, I realized, there is a lot to discover in the Bay Area. And you know what's even more awesome is that I can create my own journeys here and discover all in my own backyard to encourage people to create their own adventures and to live more life fully, regardless of their where they are. There's all to be found in everyday life. So that's the goal of my YouTube channel, and I hope you go check it out. It's called Go Wandering. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you can go check it out and subscribe, I would truly appreciate it. And secondly, my second pillar, my purpose, is to ignite my light and others. And I've landed on dancing as how I can do that. So dancing is something that I've always loved. Been going out dancing since I was 16. It's something that instantly lights me up. And what's different about how I dance now is that I make it a conscious decision to really connect and light up other people and make other people feel seen when we're dancing in the same space. And when I went to my first Burning Man, I also bought a levitation wand, which is a light up stick that is attached to a string, and I would spin it around me as something that I would learn how to do at Burning Man, and it literally lights up too. So in a way, I am lighting people up figuratively, spiritually, and literally through dancing, spreading joy and love through dance, connecting. It's amazing. So that's my second pillar. My third pillar is to help people discover, live, and amplify their purpose. And at the time when I started this podcast, I knew I was already doing that. But as I mentioned earlier, I had this sense of imposter syndrome. Like I wasn't just a seeker anymore after I discovered my purpose. I knew I needed to actually step into it. And if I'm going to have this podcast about finding your life's purpose, I should also be stepping into mine and also learn how to help others to step into theirs as well. So what I did was I decided to get a certification in professional life coaching. So now I have the skills to coach others to get clarity on what is it that they really want to do in their life. So yeah, those are my 3 pillars of my purpose. And shortly after I came back from Burning Man, I was working for the startup that I joined. But after 6 months, it turns out that the funding that was supposed to come in never materialized. And I had to plunge myself back into the job search early last year. But this time, I told myself that I'm going to be doing it differently. Instead of job hunting full time, I'm going to take this time to apply the lessons I've learned from starting this podcast and truly take the steps to finally embody my purpose that I just mentioned. And part of that entailed me being realistic and accepting of the situation that I was in. So the job market has not improved. Mass layoffs are still happening. AI is taking over the world, and we're going through big change in the workplace at the moment. So there's a lot of mass anxiety, right? And while I am still job searching for like a product marketing role, I realize that it's going to take a while. And this transition into the new AI era is going to be messy. You know, the golden age of the tech industry in the Bay Area is pretty much over. So a lot of lives are going to be turned upside down now. And many of us, me included, it's already been happening. But it's also, I believe, a time of unprecedented opportunity to create your own thing. You know, with AI and all the new technology out there and social media, it's so easy to manage something yourself and grow your own solo business. So many things that can be automated now with technology and being able to amplify your voice using social media. We don't need to be doing bunch of mundane machine task anymore. We can actually use this time to create a new reality using the power of AI and use this time to, I believe, step closer into our purpose, to create the ideal life that we are really meant to live. And okay, I think maybe I might be a bit too optimistic, but I think realistically, we do need to accept things for what it is. In Buddhism and many spiritual teachings, acceptance is crucial for reducing suffering and cultivating inner peace. It's about being present and aware of the moment, recognizing that things are constantly changing and that all things are temporary, and that accepting all experiences, both positive and negative, without resistance or judgment is necessary. It just is. So for me and my situation and the bigger macro situation, it just means that the concept of job security is over and the era of solopreneurship is in. The age of AI assistance is here. So if that is the new situation as it is, how can we make it work in this new era? Well, I think that what we need to do is to support each other as individuals more than ever. It means we need to do things differently. It means we have to step outside of our own bubble, of our own comfort zone. It also means that we need to reach out to support others on their journey and ask for support as well. Because we as humans, we are group creatures. With the absence of working with other people, when you're working in like a company, we also need to create our own team, our own allies. And I think that is the beauty of it all. Because we all have something to offer one another, whether you know or not. And it took me a while to realize mine, and also took me a while to actually take the leap and take on new skills and up-level existing ones. But you know what? Once I did, I have it. I feel in flow now. Like I picked up the right things and I am flowing in the river again. And that is so important because fundamentally, I believe that you gotta find what lights you up. Because once you do, you can also light up others. Because it's really a part of you you're offering to others in this world. So this is the journey I've decided to embark on. And it's been really exciting to become a solopreneur in parallel from a job search. And what that entails is a couple of things. So one of them is obviously the relaunch of this podcast. So if you want to continue listening to my interviews of people who have found their purpose so you can discover yours, I encourage you to keep listening. And also to offer coaching to others so that they can step into their purpose. And lastly, it took me a while to wrap my head around this, that my marketing background can actually be aligned with my purpose. And specifically, I can help other purpose-driven solopreneurs and founders to amplify their purpose and unleash their full potential by taking marketing off their plate and do it for them. So those are the three things that a Working Purpose 2.0 is going to be moving forward: the podcast, coaching, and purpose-driven marketing. So I'd like to end this episode, my first solo one, by offering you three things. So one is, if you feel like you have a nagging feeling, like, is this it? If you feel unfulfilled, I'm offering you a free gifted coaching session with me. What it is going to be a 1-hour conversation with me to explore the life you want to create so you can gain some clarity on your purpose, what truly lights you up and others, and how you can actually step into it. We can explore things like your limiting beliefs and how to rewrite them so you can truly step into the you that you have the potential to be, and maybe even take big steps into your purpose journey as well. Your first call is 100% free, 100% confidential, and no pressure and no obligation at all. The second is, if you are a purpose-driven solopreneur or founder and you are looking to hone your purpose-driven story, your purpose story, your positioning, your messaging, your growth strategy, in your content marketing. I'll be happy to offer you a free marketing strategy consultation so you can really amplify your purpose. And thirdly, I'm going to be sharing a lot more about my own journey, my solopreneur journey, my purpose journey, my personal development journey, and all my content creation journey, including my podcast, YouTube, and any learnings that I'm learning on my own right now. I'll be sharing those in my new monthly email newsletter, so you can sign up for that in the show note. I'll be setting my first one soon, so be sure to follow so you don't miss it. And as well as on LinkedIn and Instagram, and maybe on Threads and X as well. I'll be adding my links to my social in my bio, and I'm pretty much posting something every other day, so be sure to follow and subscribe. And if you enjoy this podcast so far, I really hope you would subscribe and give it 5 stars and share it with a friend. That would really help me out and help your friend out too, hopefully. And also, if you stay tuned for the next episode, I have a really amazing guest. She's the CEO and founder of SoulPod, which is the group meditation app, which is a really amazing app if you really want to not just cultivate a meditation practice, but to really take it to the next level where you start feeling the mysticism, the spiritual power of meditation. The CEO of SoulPod, Crystal Cassidy, will be up next. So yeah, thank you so much for being here with me on this journey, and thank you for listening, and I can't wait to see where it all takes us next. So until next time, keep shining your light, and thanks for listening to A Working Purpose. And my name is Wing, and I hope you much love and light. Goodbye.